Good morning, good morning. It's Charmaine Hammond with the Global Influence Summit, and I'm really excited about today's masterclass. We're here with Camille Leon, and we're here with Teresa de Grosbois. I'm going to introduce Teresa in just a moment. Just to give you a background of the masterclass series that we have incredible speakers on areas of branding, marketing, internet marketing, media, getting your message to the masses through video, what not to do on social media. And today, we have a dear friend, Camille, who is with the Holistic Chamber of Commerce, the founder, and Teresa will be introducing Camille. And we're going to be talking about how to build your business. So for all of you that are with us live, good morning, hello. I want to introduce you to the chat box. There's a chat box on the right-hand side of your screen, so we would love for you to go in and type in where you're listening from today, what the weather's like, and maybe what you do, what's your business about, so we can start to learn about you. I'm going to be continually checking the chat box to see what kind of questions are coming in, comments, and I will flag Teresa and Camille right away so that we can get you engaged in our conversation. So welcome. And Teresa, it's always a pleasure to introduce you. Not only are you a dear friend, also the co-host of the upcoming Global Influence Summit, which is a week away. Can you believe it? Woohoo!
I know. I can't wait to everybody in San Diego. That's going to be fun.
Let me tell you a little bit about Teresa. Teresa is the founder of the Evolutionary Business Council, and you've heard me talk about the EBC a lot on these webinars, an organization I'm so proud to be a part of. Teresa is also a transformational speaker, a best-selling author, and her recent book, which I love, is Mass Influence. I think you can see it right behind Teresa's head, actually, if you need to know what the cover looks like. It's a phenomenal book about helping people learn how to grow their influence, how to grow their reach, and how to build powerful relationships in business. Teresa also coaches and mentors authors to help their books become bestsellers, and many of them are my friends. I've followed what Teresa teaches because it works. Teresa, welcome. I'm going to pass it over to you to introduce Camille.
Thank you. It's great to be here. Hi, everybody. I love doing these master classes because as much as we deliver a lot of really cool content, we also keep them a bit informal. So start typing on the chat board where you're from and what you're up to, because we will gear what we do here to you. I'm so excited to introduce Camille Leon to you because not only is she someone who really inspires me, but she's also a dear friend. I could go on for about 10 minutes on Camille's credentials: best-selling author. She does stand-up comedy, of all things. But the thing, really most relevant of who Camille is that she is the founder of the organization called the Holistic Chambers of Commerce. They have chapters all over the world. In fact, I helped Camille bring them into Canada, and they're growing like wildfire. In fact, I think one of the fastest growing business networking groups I've ever seen. And I think it's because, when you know Camille, you'll know her vision is not just to support the influential people in the field of holistic health, but it's really to shift the conversation on the planet around how we live our lives and health. And she does that by supporting the leaders, which is a great paradigm for what creates influence. I talk about this in the book. You want to become influential, become a hub and of high service to the influential people in your industry. So Camille, welcome. It is so great to have you here with us today.
Thank you, Teresa. I am so excited to be here. I love you and what you've done for us in Canada. I love this book right here, Mass Influence. So true. And Charmaine, it's always lovely to be participating with you when we're speaking together, shows like this together. So thank you both for putting together the Global Influence Summit and for having me on the series right now.
Oh, you're so welcome. Teresa, we have some comments coming in already where people are from. And I also want to mention that the Holistic Chamber of Commerce is actually a sponsor of the Global Influence Summit. So thank you, Camille, for your support. We have Annie, who says she's from Peterborough, Ontario, Canada, and she is an ICF Master Certified Executive Coach, and she puts up above, oh, and I'm an aspiring best-selling author as well. Woohoo!
I love it.
And then we have Michelle, who says good morning, and Sarah, who says I'm in Richfield, Minnesota. I'm an acupuncturist. Welcome, everybody.
Beautiful.
Wait, they have acupuncturists in Minnesota? That's great.
I love it. That's beautiful. Camille, let's set a little context for today's call. Let's just talk a little bit about what first inspired you to create the Holistic Chambers, and how did you actually get the courage to step out and do a vision that big?
So I got the courage because I didn't know what I was getting into. So I thought, oh, well, I can put together a meeting for a group in West LA, and everything else just kind of, it's a very organic, you plant a seed and that seed takes root and it starts growing, and then you plant another seed, and eventually you have a garden, and our garden is filled with beautiful blossoms, and we keep planting new seeds all the time. It started when I was working in downtown LA in one of those skyscrapers, and my grandmother had a stroke, my mother had a double mastectomy. I saw the writing on the wall, it wasn't pretty, and I said, how do I find some holistic and natural healers? And they were hard to find. My coworkers didn't understand why I would look for at the time I was looking for an acupuncturist, and my coworkers were like, oh, what? And doesn't that include, like, that's needles, right? And so it was realizing there was a disconnect in mainstream consumers about why you would even try these things. That's awareness and education, which are just two really nice soft sell words for marketing. And that's business. If you want to get your message out, then you're in business. And so Holistic and Chamber of Commerce, I was lucky.
I love it. And I love how you talk about that you just kind of leaned into it. I know that's a concept that Janet Atwood and Jennifer Huff and a lot of transformational leaders really talk about is, if you've got a following and you're not, or you've got a gut knowing rather, that you need to follow, but you're not quite sure what you should be doing, like just lean in, and the path becomes a lot more visible the further you lean, right? So I love that you did that. And like, just to be really real and vulnerable, I know you and I, because we both run large organizations with members all over the world, and we've had many a moment on the phone going like, oh my God, if they only knew what a mess this becomes, and how hard this is at times, and how challenging this is to figure out a model that works for everyone everywhere, and how much behind the scenes administration's involved, and yet that vision of what you're doing still keeps you driving forward, right? So I'd love to kind of dive in, because one of the things I talk about in my book is that one of the keys, you want to become highly influential, really become of high service to the other influential people in your industry or your conversation of what you're doing. And I can't think of any model better for doing that than creating a large organization that really helps them shine, right? And the Holistic Chamber of Commerce is such a great example of that, right? You're basically teaching leaders in the holistic field how to create chapters in their own cities so that they can stand up and really solidify the holistic community in their city, so that conversation becomes paramount in their city, and it's no longer a backroom sideline conversation, but holistic health practices become the norm, that people are thinking, okay, mainstream medicine is a part of my health practices, but so are all these other things that are appropriately support me. So, as we sit in that context, right, like, okay, you want to be of high service to the industry. what would be some of the key pieces of advice that you would want to give people? You know, okay, so you feel called to really stand up and become influential. You know, what's the first thing you want to do? Where does somebody start, Camille?
You know, on some level, starting by, so the law of attraction, we almost all in this industry talk about the law of attraction. So look at what you are attracting. What is working? It's really easy, and I remember in the beginning, it was really easy for me to list off everything that wasn't working, everything that was a problem, and I can tell you, the universe slowly stripped away for me a lot of the things that were not part of my primary purpose. And so when I sat down and said, well, what am I attracting? It was all related to the Holistic Chamber of Commerce. And then I was like, okay, how do I start attracting more? If this is what's working, if this is the direction I'm headed in, then how do I start attracting more? So, which is when I started looking at coaches and business coaches and marketing coaches and successful entrepreneurs going, oh, they use email. Oh, they have websites. Oh, they use social media, right? And so, like, if you want to help heal the world, and I'm not an acupuncturist, and I'm not a Reiki master, and I'm not a sound healer or a massage therapist, so I want to help heal the world, and my technique or my specialty is through healing businesses and making connections. So, you know, what's that root question for you? I want to help heal whatever. I want to help heal people's bookkeeping, right?
Yeah.
So, is that right?
Yeah, I love it. I love that you raised that point, because, you know, like, let's talk about law of attraction for a minute, right? Because, you know, I know you and I have talked about this a lot between us. You know, I think sometimes people, they first step into this notion of really managing your inner thoughts and standing in the positive of what you want to create. And you know, so a lot of us mistakenly end up with this belief that law of attraction is all about never being negative, and let me just stay in the Om, and like, you know, I'm going to shove away anything that's negative from me. And not that that's wrong, but, you know, the true state of enlightenment, if you read any books, like if you read David Hawkins' Power versus Force, or if you're a fan of Esther Hicks, who first coined the term law of attraction, you know, and actually it's interesting because David Hawkins is more from a scientific, hardcore, metaphysical standpoint, and Esther Hicks rather is more on the very spiritual, you might call it woo-woo if you weren't offended by the term, side. Yeah. But a lot of their work very much parallels each other, and they really talk about how, you know, the true state of enlightenment is being present to all emotion at all time, be present to everything that's around you. And business is simply a game that this planet has created, and it's a game that works. And, you know, it's funny how often I'll see very transformational people sit down next to me, and they're like, you know, I'm just putting it out there that the universe is going to help me manifest a highly successful business. And I'm like, are you noticing that you just sat down next to someone who teaches people how to have a highly successful business? And are you open to learning that? You know? And so it's funny because a lot of people, you know, they're open to the manifesting, like they're open to the, oh, I'm going to use all this positive language. But then when the training or the mentors come to them, they somehow have this mental dialogue that they shouldn't have to learn it. And, you know, I'd love to, because I know you and I have we've had phone calls, like Camille and I are friends, same with Shar, right? And, you know, the three of us have often had phone calls where we're like, can I just vent for a minute to get this out of my space, because nothing's working right now. And it's not about focusing on the negative, but it's about being honest and real to what's there, so that you can get back, you know, get that stuff out of your space and get back focused on the positive. You know, and I'd love to have you talk about that a little bit more, because you're kind of one of my people that I'm very real with. We're each other's persons, guys, us three on this phone. And, you know, so like dive deeper into that one. Like, how do you stay in that energy? Because I know, like, as many moving parts as I deal with in an organization as big as I run, your organization is now probably 3 times the size of mine. Like, what are your how do you stay in that rooted to your vision, but still deal with all the moving parts that need to be dealt with? Because I think that's such a core skill of influence.
Thank you. You know, that's such a big question. How do I condense that into a 30-second?
Go wherever you want. We're just having fun.
There are a lot of moving parts, and I think, you know, we talk about the law of attraction and the law of abundance as this, oh, well, of course, it's just going to fall into place, and nobody talks about, for example, the crunch. I call them crunches. It's that, you know, the time it takes to do the work to support all of this is a lot of time. By being in business, I get to create the money that allows me to hire the people, staff and consultants, to take on some of that work, right? So, and that, of course, and then we still get crunches, which is, we're having another growth spurt. That's a good thing, folks. That's a lot of abundance, but a lot of abundance in terms of a business growth spurt means an abundance of work to support it. So then there's the crunch of we have more work, then we have people to do it, and the budget is still, so my budget is still playing catch up with my vision, my what's on the drawing board. And you know what? I have an organization filled with holistic healers and holistic coaches. So honestly, some days when it just gets really crazy, I check into our online chapter, which is a closed group on Facebook, and look at what our members are saying. And they are so inspiring and so hopeful, and they're always looking at, how do I pull love into it? How do I pull joy into it? Does forgiveness play a role, right? We have a beloved member, Sean Duperrin, who talks about progress. Yes, now a doctor, now nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize. And she's done material that is about forgiving yourself for marketing mistakes, right? Because I think in today's day and age, we all think we should be there already, right? We see all these Mark Zuckerberg's overnight successes, which, you know, really, it took him 10 years. Oprah Winfrey, who is huge, well, you know, she had her show for 25 years, and the first couple of years, she probably went through some of the same stuff that we do. So it's getting back, dialing back to what's the key question, what's the core, what's the primary purpose. So a lot of our people talk about clarity. Honestly, I really hate to say this, but I had a colonic once, and
I love how real you are.
It cleared out some of the old crap that was in the way of what's my primary purpose, right? So keep asking those questions that help get you to clarity, but also connect with the people who help get you back to clarity. And remember, this too shall pass. Like, there'll be another day, and the stuff that looks big and ugly today will be different tomorrow.
Yeah, I love it. And, you know, the fun thing is, you know, and I love that expression, you become the 5 closest people you hang around with, right? And, you know, so I have, you know, people I hang around with because I want to have breakthroughs in comedy. You're one of them, by the way. I have people I hang around with because I want to have breakthroughs in ease and grace around managing a huge organization that's out to cause shift in the world, and you're one of those too, right? And but you know, I think often the trick is, and you and I have talked about this on the phone in some of those early morning phone calls, is like falling in love with the mess of it.
Oh.
You know? And like, just,
it's messy.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And it
Actually, there's a great question here. Speaking of like falling in love with messes and the crunch time and keep asking those questions, I got to dive in and ask this one. Annie asked a great question. She said, this is going back a bit, Camille, when you were talking about healing your bookkeeping. So here's the question. It says, please say more about healing the bookkeeping, especially since we're about to go into tax season, something I really don't like. Other than hiring someone to do it, which requires me to be really organized before I could even pass it off to someone else, what else is possible? And then Annie also added that by the time it would take to actually explain how to do her books, she's feeling she may as well just end up doing it herself. So what thoughts or recommendations do you have there? Great question.
So I'll just say, so we actually say mind, body, spirit, business, budget, planet, because it's a circle that's not just the mind, body, spirit part, right? How we handle our business, how we handle our budget impacts how healthy we are in the other areas of our life. But one thing I also had to recognize at a certain point, so way back in the early days, right, I kept my records in Quicken, and it was great. It operated just like my checkbook, so it really made a lot of sense to me. And then we grew to a point where it just didn't make sense. I had to separate my business bank from my personal bank account, recognize that, we may be joined at the hip, but that doesn't mean our bank accounts need to be joined. I actually did go looking for a bookkeeper. A lot of us have in our mind, oh, I can't afford it, right? I can't afford a bookkeeper, can't afford the nice car that you want. Well, if you get some quotes, you might find that you can find a bookkeeper that you can afford, because of course that thing that takes you 8 hours takes them 8 minutes. Very sad, but it's very true. So you're thinking it's going to take at least a full week, when in fact for a professional who that's their specialty, it takes them an hour or half a day or maybe a full day, but that's so much less time than it would take you. For example, if you have a pile of receipts that just haven't been entered into a program yet, go find an assistant or a teenager or a community college student who might be willing to do some data entry for a few extra bucks, right? Yes, so there are always options. There are mothers who would love to have a temporary part-time way to make a few extra bucks that allow them the flexibility to pick up and drop off their kids according to their schedule, who would be happy to do data entry for you. There are so many things that really looked overwhelming, and I should just say, by the way, this is such a great, so the money thing still in many ways looks very overwhelming for me. And that was part of the find an expert who that's their specialty. So I'm hoping that, Annie, some of those ideas help give you an idea of where to start with pulling the money together. We do have bookkeepers who are members. We have tax advisors who are members because it's relevant, especially if you are in business for yourself and your business starts growing. How do you, it's not just how do I attract more money, but now that I'm attracting more money, how do I manage my money purposefully?
And Annie was commenting here, for her it's more about the time than the money, and some of the things that we did, because in our business, I've had my business now for 20 years, and I've gone from having 3 offices with 10 staff down to being a small office with 2 staff and contracting out about 15 people at any given time. So there's so much tracking of things. And one of the things that we learned from one of our mentors was the importance of creating systems. I started to learn that there were so many tasks that were sapping my time that I did over and over and over again, or couldn't remember where I filed them, or couldn't remember the name of the document. Some little mistakes that we make when we're getting started. that actually suck our time away. So I started to look at what could I do to minimize my time, and what could I do to create systems. Lisa Menini is someone I love listening to about systems. She is just a systems pro. She's actually speaking at your Evolutionary Business Retreat next week, Teresa.
Yeah.
But part of what we have to look at is, I think, with accounting, and it's not even just accounting. That might be one example of the things that we spend a lot of time on, and sometimes don't enjoy. I do not enjoy accounting, trust me. But I learned that when I wasn't doing it every sort of week or every month and kind of letting it pile up because it didn't seem like a priority, there was another problem with that. So it ended up taking way more time later. But then the other thing is I wasn't in touch with my metrics. So from a business perspective, I was doing things at the end of the month or end of 3 months, and then it really put me out of touch with the business. And I love your ideas, Camille, about looking for students. There are students that have to do practicum placements. So when we're looking at how do we better manage our time, we've done that as well, reached out to students, and actually looked at service sharing, where I might provide a service to a colleague and they in turn provide a service to me in a form of in-kind sponsorship. So there's great ways to be creative.
Beautiful. Yeah.
They just asked the name here, Annie. Her name is Lisa Menini, M-I-N-I-N-N-I, and she's just phenomenal. You can find her on Facebook, and she's a dear friend of all three of ours.
Yeah, she is great. She is actually also a member of the Holistic Chamber of Commerce. She'll be speaking at our the opening of our Detroit downtown chapter next month. So
exciting for Michigan. How fun. Yeah. And that's such a great example too. I think a lot of us wait, we have this paradigm of I have to wait till I have enough money for a full bookkeeper, or I've got to do it all myself. One of the exercises that, and I can't remember who gave me this exercise now, but it was such a good one, was, to create an icon or someone whose business you would like your business to be like, and then ask yourself, one of mine is actually Esther Hicks. Not that, I teach business, so what I teach is totally different than what Esther Hicks, but I love the way she runs her training business. I love that, she had her husband Jerry always managing the events, and they felt good, and I loved her marketing model. And so, the exercise I was given is just ask yourself, what would Esther Hicks do? Would Esther Hicks do her own books, or would she hire someone to help me do these books? Now, I get what you're probably thinking, okay, but I don't have enough money for a full bookkeeper or whatever. So how much money do you have? Can you afford $20 a week? If you can afford $20 a week, hire someone for $20 a week to do as much of that as you can. And in the time you've saved from that, which might actually be 2 or 3 hours of your time now because they're way better at it than you are, you now make money to hire them more, And it's really that simple. That's how you expand and grow your organization.
The metaphor or the thing that comes up for me is a lot of people really think they need to clean their house before the housekeeper shows up.
Yeah.
Right? We're looking at our pile of receipts thinking, well, I'm not ready for a bookkeeper or an assistant because I have to do all this work before they even walk in the door. Well, honestly, some of them, that's really where they shine, is walking in the door and saying, oh, look at that pile of receipts, or look at that to-do list, or look at that pile of whatever, right? I can help clean that up for you. And we actually, like I have members, I know that that's their specialty, is helping people organize. Because if you're wasting a lot of time, for example, always looking for papers, how could you better spend that time if your office environment, if your workspace was better organized, if your garage was better organized, right? So we don't have to clean up the mess before the housekeeper arrives. That's what we have the housekeeper coming for.
Beautiful. I love that analogy. That's brilliant.
There's a couple of questions. One that came in privately from email from someone who couldn't be here today, and I promised I would raise it so that it shows up on the recording. And then Annie, I'm going to go to your question next as well. So the question that came in through email had to do with making use of relationships you have and collaborating. So for example, when you belong to a membership organization, let's say Holistic Chamber of Commerce, how can you use, not use, that's the wrong word, how can you expand those relationships with members that you have across North America that you don't get to meet because you're not in Canada, for example, at the Vancouver meeting? What are the ways that in a membership organization people can really support one another and build influence and collaboration together?
Some of these ideas I knew from my career, and some of these ideas really come from my work with our esteemed co-host, Teresa de Grosbois. I'll just say, so, like, first of all, I still pick up the phone, and I still make calls out. I also sometimes answer the phone. So, you want to increase your level of relationship with somebody, get on the phone. Half the time you're going to get voicemail anyway, so they're going to get a message that lets them know that you cared and wanted to connect, whether or not they need to return that call. Yeah, I think a lot of us are a little bit too scared of the phone, and it's a great way to just reach out and say, thinking of you, so appreciate who you are and what you do. By the way, I'm saying that because I need to remind myself of that way more often. Also, send a card.
I just want to say, Camille, I love how powerfully vulnerable you are. And I think that's one of the best ways that you collaborate with your own chapter presidents, is that you role model that for them. That it's like it's okay to be a human being and still do something really big, because like, let's face it, if you're a holistic practitioner in this world, you're trying to change people's thinking about their health. You're trying to get people off of the addiction of prescription drugs that our society has, globally become addicted to, and thinking about, geez, maybe there's diet or Chinese medicine practices or massage therapy or all these other modalities that can help you. And that takes, like, being a real human being and vulnerable. So I didn't want to step over that, because, like, you role modeled that so beautifully right there. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. So I actually learned something about that at an Evolutionary Business Council retreat where Lisa Manini was doing her presentation on personalities, right? Learning about people. How do you operate best, and how do others operate best? Apparently I'm an external thinker, so my aha moments come when I'm talking with somebody else. Sort of.
I get that. I'm that way too.
Hilarious. But back to the question that came in, connecting with others. A great thing that I really like to do, which is a little bit, or maybe a lot of it, at the root of the Holistic Chamber of Commerce, is I share about others on social media. So instead of talking about me and this great thing I started, right, the Holistic Chamber of Commerce, I can say on Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter, I can say, have you met acupuncturist Annie out in Minnesota? She's participating with our Minneapolis West chapter. That makes us look good. It also makes Annie look really good. And it reminds the world that acupuncture is a great solution. It's a great service for stress relief, I know people who have used acupuncture for healing allergies, skin issues. And so I use social media as a way to shine the light on others, and by doing that, it looks good for me and it looks good for them. They appreciate it, right? So it builds that relationship, even though we don't have time to spend a lot of time on the phone or connect, and emails, come and go. I think there are a lot of ways to just spend a few minutes reaching out to those that you want to stay connected to.
We just did a master class with Laura Rubenstein last week, and if anyone hasn't listened to that, I will email you the link to Laura Rubenstein's master class. She is an expert at social media and building influence and building your business through social media, and she was going through a bunch of mistakes that people make all the time, and why we don't want to make them. She's going to be speaking at the Global Influence Summit next week in San Diego, which we'll tell you a little bit about later. But one of the things that Laura talked about is really echoing what you're saying, Camille, the value of when you can go on. So let's take this, for example. I'm going to go on Facebook and Twitter and everything later, and I'm going to talk about what rock stars Teresa and Camille were for putting out these vulnerable conversations about business. And I'm going to big you up. Now, it would be weird, I think, if Teresa was to say or Camille was to say something like, wasn't I a rock star today on the master class when I shared my own vulnerability? That would just be weird. But when I say it for you, it's actually coming across as a form of endorsement as well, that these are two powerful women in business that I so respect, and here's why you want to know them. And so what happens in that exchange of being a champion or an ambassador for someone is now I've invited you, Camille and Teresa, into my audience, and there might be somebody that's in my circle saying, I need to get to know Camille. Oh my gosh, I didn't even know about Holistic Chamber of Commerce. I need to be part of that, or I need to read Teresa's book. I need to go to this event, whatever it is. So I love that you've raised the conversation of being an authentic ambassador, an authentic champion for people to help build influence, because it really is at the basis of relationships. And when you're doing that, I'm going to be speaking about sponsorship at the event, and I talk about how many of the sponsors, so I have people that sponsor all kinds of my business for me. I have printing sponsors, I have technology sponsors, I have a number of things that I would typically pay for in my business that I now have sponsored and don't have to pay for. And they all started with what Camille said a moment ago. They all started with a relationship and a conversation. So even though for some of us picking up that phone can be awkward, or it takes a back seat, it becomes a back-end priority, the value of that phone call can serve you for years and years. And Teresa, you talk about that in your book.
Beautiful. And I love how, Camille, you've been role modeling that so nicely, of giving influence to other people. You can bet that I'm going to tag Dr. Sean DeParent later and say, we were good gossiping about you, because, of course, good gossip is her brand, right? That's what she teaches as a means for people to become influential, right? So I love that. Camille, I'd love to leave people with some takeaways, because I know we have limited time here this morning. Some key takeaways. So let me create the scenario. So you're a one-on-one practitioner, and this is very common in the holistic realm. We have people who they deal with their clients one-on-one. They might be trading their hours for dollars, and you want to move into having a bigger impact. So move into having at least some parts of your business that are more one-to-many, etc. So let's just deal with, like, first thing that comes to mind kind of questions, okay? Rapid fire if you want. What would be the best place people can start in terms of one thing people could do that would make a difference to move them from one-on-one practitioner to more influential?
I think so two things come to mind immediately on this. One is write a book. These days it's just so easy to sit down and write a book, and if you've been doing any training and workshops, on the 7 Chinese chakras or on the energetic meridian points, then you can take your workshop materials and boil that down and create the manuscript for your book and get it published and put it on your bookshelf. And it's something that establishes you as an expert, and it's something more that you can sell, and it really speaks to the one-to-many conversation. I think another thing that a lot of our service-related, and I call them solopreneurs, the people are really kind of, it's me and my client. is sometimes find a product that is already out there that you can add to your business. So whether somebody needs a treatment from you this month, they can, they can be a customer still through whatever that product is. Or, again, if you've got a book, then they've got something else that they can not just purchase from you, but they can share with others. They can get it as a gift or anyway. So does that
Yeah, beautiful. Okay, another just rapid fire. First thing that comes to mind, what would be the biggest mistakes you want to avoid? Maybe just one big mistake that would stop you from moving away from one-on-one or increasing more one-to-many in your business.
Either there are no mistakes or learn the lesson. And you know what? Really, it's move on. Like, you made a mistake. Guess what? We all make mistakes. Move on.
Yeah, getting stuck in your own fear of making mistakes. I love it. Beautiful.
Here's a great comment, too. I just want to bring it up. Katarina says, I am moving my business to the next level by using some of Teresa's tips in her book, Mass Influence. One-on-many is my next step. Very excited with a big happy face. And I love how you've just modeled, Katarina, exactly what we're talking about. And congratulations. That's exciting.
Thank you.
I can't wait to see more.
Beautiful. So, Camille, I would love to know, in terms of standing in, the incredible stand that you are for your members, playing a bigger game in the world. If you had, some key pieces of advice for them, key takeaways, things they should do every day that would make a key difference, what would you be telling them right now? Let's just get really, really real and pick your type client, picture them in your mind, and just say, I wish you would do more of. What would that be?
Make at least one phone call every day.
Mm,
and I'm not going to tell you who to make that phone call to, but make at least one phone call every day. Make at least
reach out and touch someone, as the TV commercial says, right?
Reach out and touch someone. But it's also take your intention and put it into action. So that's what a phone call is taking the intention and putting it into action. Make at least one social media post every day. You don't have to let it suck up all your time, but getting out there and putting it out there is what goes beyond. If you want to go beyond preaching to the choir, then you've got to be in action. And let me just say before we get too far, Katarina is a coach in our South Surrey chapter. She is also our chapter president there and really rocking the house. So I love to hear that she's moving to a new stage. That's very exciting.
That is exciting.
So yeah, I think that's make a phone call, make a social media post, and also ask yourself, who is my best primary client? Who do I really want to reach? Because there are a million things you can do at any one point in time. So knowing who you help best is going to help you figure out what's the thing that you should be doing. Not what I should do, not what Teresa or Charmaine should do, but who do you need to connect with? Go there.
I love it. And, as I say, living the life of your dreams takes action. Otherwise, you're just dreaming, right?
Oh, yes.
And I'm so excited to be hosting the Global Influence Summit with you, Camille. Thank you for the stand you've taken to be one of our major sponsors for this event. I just so love you for that. I can't wait to see you in San Diego. And so maybe I'll just turn it over to Shar to tell folks a little bit more about the Global Influence Summit, because speaking of action, this is a group of people you want to learn from and put what they have to say into action. So Shar, take it away. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm so excited about this event. I'm actually getting so excited that I wake up at 4:30 in the morning right now with all these ideas. And the event, the Global Influence Summit, is February 18th and 19th in San Diego. What a great place to be in the middle of winter. So for those of you that are from snowy, cold places, San Diego is a great place to be. What is so cool about the Global Influence Summit, besides the amazing sponsors that have come on board, and we have many, the Holistic Chamber of Commerce, the Public Speakers Association, Global Accelerators. I mean, we have had incredible partners come on to support this event, and the amazing speakers that we have. And what was so interesting for me today as I was listening to the conversations, that this event actually features speakers that are addressing a lot of the pain points, a lot of the challenges that we talked about today. That whole aspect of how do we manage our time. We only have 24 hours in a day, and as entrepreneurs, we just feel like we're so stretched. We have incredible speakers like you heard us talk about today, Dr. Sean Duperrin, who's my media coach. She is the one that taught me how to get out of my own way and love being on media, and I do love it now. It took me a few years, by the way. We also have Thomas Lemagure, who is an internet marketing genius, isn't he, Teresa? Like, what we have learned from the coaching from Thomas is just brilliant. Actually, Thomas was the one who helped us put this whole masterclass series together to bring this kind of information to all of you, and to start that building of community before we even have the event. And then we have Harrison Klein, my favorite speaker, on the power of I am and the power of mindset. We have Natalie Ledwell. Some of you actually were participating in the masterclass with Natalie. She was talking about affiliate marketing on the masterclass and how we build our brand and go. She was actually internet ignorant. These are her words. She didn't know anything about YouTube or the internet, and now her Mind movies, Teresa, they're reaching millions around the globe. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah. She's one of the most impactful emerging thought leaders on the planet at the moment. It's brilliant what she does. Yeah.
And she's a great example of someone who is a champion, like we talked about today, for other people. And then Deborah Poneman, who I could listen to forever. The topics that we're covering are branding, internet marketing. I'll be talking about sponsorship, how to actually have corporate sponsors cover different costs of your business and how to work in collaboration. Teresa's going to be talking about mass influence, how you can build influence. So as you can see, there's lots of support here to solve some of the problems that we all deal with in business, whether we're just starting out or whether we've been in it for a while and we want to get to the the next level. On your screen, you can see the information about the Global Influence Summit, and to register, it's real easy. You just simply press the button and register. You can also go to globalinfluencesummit.com. You can check out the speakers there. You can register there. And you can also look at the bottom of the page. I want you to go on and look at all the sponsors and help us send them some love for the support they're showing us. So globalinfluencesummit.com. Cool thing is right now registration is only $220. So that will be going up next week. Early next week, just before the conference. So I want to make sure that you can come in at this fabulous price and really experience what these speakers have to offer you. I think it's going to be an amazingly transformational event for all of us. Even those of us who are speaking, we are going to walk away with a bunch of new information. And of course, when you register, you get some pretty incredible gifts from the different speakers and different sponsors. So Teresa, is there anything I missed out about why people really want to come to this awesome event?
7 more sleeps. I'm just so excited. You know, I just want to say, some of you listening, some people are hardwired to just deal with people one-on-one, and that is your calling. And yet there are many of you out there that know that you were put here to do something bigger, to play bigger, to cause change in the world, to have a bigger impact in the world. And if you know that's you, then right now you probably have a lot of inner dialogue coming up that's stopping you, not only in your business, but stopping you for thinking about being at this event and learning how to play at a bigger level. And I ask you to notice that, because if what's stopping you is stopping you everywhere, then you need to be at this event. And if that's you, then I would invite you to become completely unreasonable in this moment and come join us in San Diego, because this event will be life-changing and world-changing as a result.
Absolutely. And there was a question that came in, is it going to be live streamed? This event will not be live streamed. We want to have people connecting in the room. That's the power. I'll tell you, Teresa, you and I talked about this, that and Camille, you see this all the time at your events. We talked about it when I was presenting at the Mission Viejo Holistic Chamber, the power of what happens when you bring people in a room together. That's where the influence building really happens, is building those relationships. So this event won't be live streamed. Somebody else asked, what was the name of your media coach again? My media coach is Dr. Shawn Duperrin, and I typed in her web handle. It's Shawn, and it has an E on it, SHAWNETV. That's Dr. Shawn Duperrin. And somebody asked if we will be sending out a recording of today. Absolutely. All of you will get a recording, a video replay, so you can listen to us over and over again.
Beautiful. Well, I look forward to seeing everyone in San Diego, because it's true. And if you need to room share, reach out and ping us on Facebook, because there are other people asking to room share. Just get yourself to San Diego. That's all I want to say.
Yes. And for those of you that are listening that are Holistic Chamber of Commerce members, you can connect with me direct. I'm going to put you my email in, because Holistic Chamber of Commerce members, because the Holistic Chamber is one of our partners, we have a special price for you, and I will email you that information direct. So if you are an HCC member, email me. I'm going to put my email right now in the box to give you that information. And again, Camille, I want to thank you so much for being a sponsor of this event. It's sponsorship like yours that helps people get to San Diego, like you said. I also had somebody just comment, where did it go? Somebody said there is. Okay. Katarina said, I'm so sorry I can't be there this year, but well, hopefully next year, Katarina. And Shelley said, wow, really good stuff. I am trying to make San Diego work. Woohoo, we're putting it out there for you. We put that vision out there for you, Shelley. I hope you can join us.
Yeah.
So, Charmaine and Teresa, I want to just say that this has been a lovely interview. Thank you so much. I'm so excited that we are sponsoring the Global Influence Summit. From my point of view, even those people who do the one-on-one work, they are still, their intention is still, how do I influence? How do I influence the people I work with in a way that it creates that ripple effect into their families, into our communities, and then goes beyond us? Because that's how we make the world a better place. That's how we help heal the world, is influence, whether it's one-on-one or one-to-many. It's still creating a flow. And I really see how the work that the two of you are doing and how the Global Influence Summit is all about that. Thank you.
Camille, you've been so generous with your knowledge here today, and I love the very real, vulnerable examples that you stepped into. That was so useful. Thank you so much for joining us here today. And Char, always a joy to be with you.
You too. And
I love you guys. Yeah.
Thank you for hosting, and to all of you, thank you for joining us, and I wish you all the best in 2016, and we hope to see you at the Global Influence Summit in San Diego. Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.